Hello, I'm your Superhero Critic, and I stay super as long as you stay awesome. When it comes to Superman, many actors have been chosen to play the Man of Steel, from Henry Cavill to Dean Cain to Tom Welling. But there is one person that has been one of the best versions of Superman, and that is Christopher Reeve. Now, personally, I only like the first two. It's hard to say with these two, but I have decided for the month of November, I am going to be creating it and calling it Reevember. Starting at the first one with Superman.
Our movie starts on Krypton with General Zod and his cohorts being sentenced, with Jor-El being the final vote of his sentence. They, of course, are found guilty and are sentenced to the Phantom Zone. Jor-El is then given the rest of Krypton the warning to evacuate the planet, which of course is ignored by the Council, and is instead told to keep quiet or he himself will be banished to the Phantom Zone. Jor-El warns his wife about the impending danger, and we watch as they set up a ship to send their child to safety. As they send the baby into space, the planet begins to self-destruct. The people of Krypton begin to panic as the world crumbles around them and explodes, killing everybody.
See, that's exactly what you get for ignoring a scientist's warning. 95% of the time, the scientist is right.
A couple years pass as our hero travels through space and safely crashes into Earth as a couple investigate the crash site to see our hero climb out of it.
You know, back when this movie was made, no one gave a rat's ass about censorship and babies and seeing penises on screen and shit like that. Nowadays, I have to censor it. Welcome to today's society.
The couple debate over whether or not to keep the child, and we see something no baby should be able to do.
That baby should not be able to do that.
We jump to Clark's high school years, where we see he is the equipment boy for Smallville High. We see the typical nerd being picked on by a jock cliche, and Clark takes his anger out on a football.
And it's good!
Clark runs home side by side a train, and we see a young Lois Lane witness the event. It's now time for the cliche superhero talk of parent telling our hero to not try to show off their powers and use them responsibly. It's then Jonathan's last words to Clark as he has a heart attack, and of course, no superhero movie is complete without a funeral. Late at night, Clark finds a piece of kryptonite that for some reason doesn't hurt him inside the shed, and the next day, Martha and Clark have a heart-to-heart about Clark's secret. Clark heads to the Arctic and he enters a fortress of solitude for the first time. In the fortress, he speaks with Jor-El's floating head and is given all the background of his life.
I don't know if it's just me, but I honestly find the first hour of this movie extremely boring. but it gets better.
It's now Clark's adult life where we go to the Daily Planet for grown-up Lois meeting Clark for the first time, where Perry White gives Lois the task of showing Clark the ropes in the reporter business. We get a tour of the city as the two walk by an alley and are held up by a thief. After Lois gets the drop on the thief, our hero saves her from a bullet. A couple of cops track down a man in a hat named Otis around the city who leads them into the subway. Otis gives the cops the slip as he sneaks into a hidden panel along the wall, and Lex pushes the switch to push out the panel, killing the cop trying to sneak in the lair. In his lair, Lex and his wench talk about him creating the crime of the century, but the scene doesn't really do much other than a talk with Boobs McGee Tessmacher. Clark tries to ask Lois out on a date, and she says yes, but only after her story is done. We jump to Lois, who gets into a helicopter that, of course, becomes part of the Lois Lane jinx, and gets caught on wires, causing it to go haywire. Lois looks death in the eyes until...
God, look up there! What the hell's that?
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
Technically, it's the wires holding him, but that's behind the scenes.
Word spreads of this Superman as crime after crime is thwarted by our hero. An airplane is struck by lightning, and of course our hero is there to save the day. Back in the fortress, we get some fatherly advice of keeping Superman's identity a secret, and at Luthor's, Lex is baffled by the news of a flying man, and it's to the Daily Planet we go, with Lois getting a card for meeting her savior at her place during a writer's meeting. It's now the next night, and Superman shows up at Lois's place for a very provocative one-on-one interview. During the interview, Superman gives his backstory to Lois, and we then get the most iconic scene of the entire movie. Lois flying around the city with Superman. The scene lasts a whole 5 minutes without really anything to add but lovey-lovey stuff. And after the flight, Clark shows up to whisk her away on the date.
So our hero has now fallen in love with Lois in both versions of himself. And we all know if he tells her his identity, 3 things will happen. 1, she will be pissed off for him lying to her. 2, she will die or get kidnapped. 3, she will get her memory erased. But I'm ahead of myself.
Lex is in his thinking mode and deduces that our hero's weakness could be any piece of kryptonite and sets out to find some to take down our hero. Lex stages a fake car crash in order to change the coordinates on a military missile, but Otis screws up, so he's forced to create another diversion by pretending to be a lost truck driver. While Clark is talking to Perry White, Lex sends Superman a challenge through...
This is Lex Luthor. Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you. In approximately 5 minutes, a poison gas pellet containing propane lithium compound will be released through thousands of air ducts in the city, effectively annihilating half the population of Metropolis.
Well, I was a reporter before most of my...
Our hero, of course, heads out to save the day, heading straight for Lex's trap. Lex tests Superman's powers by doing test after test until Superman succeeds and they come face to face for the first time. Lex does supervillain cliche number 1, which is telling the hero his evil plan of blowing up California to create his own West Coast. In a search to find the bomb's detonator, Superman is introduced to kryptonite for the first time as Lex overpowers our hero, sending him to a watery grave.
You don't even care where the other missile's headed, do you?
Certainly I do. I know exactly where he's headed. Hackensack, New Jersey.
See, even Lex Luthor hates New Jersey. Why? Yo, we're all thinking it.
Help comes in the form of an unlikely source as Miss Tessmacher grows a conscience and removes the kryptonite away from our hero, after of course stealing a kiss. Our hero then speeds off to stop the rockets, and he gets to the first one on time, but the one headed to the dam does not get saved in time, causing disaster everywhere. After putting the plate back in alignment, Superman saves a bus from falling off the bridge, a train from falling off its tracks, and the dam starts breaking apart. After Superman saves Jimmy Olsen, rocks and boulders start to pile in on Lois's car, and she starts to get buried alive. Superman shoves boulder after boulder in order to stop the dam water, and he finally makes his way to a troubled Lois. But when he gets there, it's way too late, and we witness one of the worst deaths in superhero movie history.
I think I'm actually gonna cry over her death. Yeah, I'll be back.
After a bit of musicless and emotional mourning, Superman lets his rage get the best of him as he ignores Jor-El and uses his power for personal gain by reversing the Earth's orbit, setting time back. Time reset, Lois lives, and so does everybody else, though Lois and Jimmy still have memories of the earthquake. And the movie ends with Superman personally bringing Lex to jail.
Okay, so there's the first of 4 Superman movies. But one thing that baffles my mind. If he went back in time and reset everything, the earthquake technically did not happen, but why do Jimmy and Lois still have memories of the earthquake happening? Maybe I'm going in too much, but it's just one of those things that bugs me. I may be wrong, I may be right. Other than that, please join me when I go into Superman 2, and we watch the fall of General Zod. I'm your superhero critic. I'll stay super as long as you stay awesome. And thank you for watching Reevember.